Welcome, my friends, to another live stream on another beautiful Saturday from Power Director University. All right, I am your PD professor, Malik, your tutorial and live stream facilitator. And today I'm going to share the Power Director computer requirements that'll make your editing life a heck of a lot easier. But before I get into that, let me hit you with a disclaimer real quick. I am great with editing. I'm pretty good with computers. I built my own computer. I helped my son learn how to build computers. Now he's building computers. He's doing things. But I am not the biggest computer guru in the world here today. But I know that some of my moderators are great with computers. Okay. And I'm going to lean on them a little bit. But I am going to share with you what I feel are the best computer specs for you to use Power Director with your computer. And before I get into all of that, I want to see who joined us today. So I want to get down with my people, see how my people doing out there today. All right, Louis Ghetto is in the building. He says, hello, all you lovely PD enthusiasts. What's up, Louis? If y'all don't know, Louis is my man, 50 grand. He gets down with me like almost every freaking Saturday that I do a live stream. And I appreciate you, my man, for getting down with us like this and hanging out every Saturday. And then another one, the man, the myth, the legend, Peter J. Milner, my head moderator in charge. What's up, Pete? He says, good afternoon, all. What's going on, Peter, my man? Thank you for spending time with me on another Saturday and lending me your expertise, my friend. Thank you so much. All right. Now, Pollyanna. What's up, Pollyanna? Pollyanna's here. She says, and you know, we love it when Pollyanna's able to make the live streams, because sometimes she just can't get down with us because Pollyanna's a very busy, beautiful woman and she's got things to do. Okay. So thank you for joining us, Pollyanna. Oh, my other head moderator in charge, my Facebook guru, my man, 50 grand on the Facebook users group, Steve Williams, otherwise known as the Limitless Wave. He says, afternoon from the UK, United Kingdom is in the building doing big things as usual. Thank you for joining me, my man, Steve. And I will also be leaning on you for your computer knowledge because I know you got the big brain on you. So I appreciate you, my man. All right. Cyber Editing says, watching from Taiwan. Oh, it is midnight in the build. Oh, my goodness. Go to sleep, bruh. Watch the replay. Okay. Watch the replay. But no, I'm not going to. No. Stay. Please stay. Help my numbers. Hit the like button. For those of you who have not done so, please hit the like button right now if you're getting down with these computer requirements conversation that we're going to be having today. All right. Groovy Granny. Hey. Groovy Granny says, great. I made it in time. Yes, you did, Groovy Granny. And you are going to see my recommendations for those specs. And of course, you're going to hear my boys, my moderators, and all my other PD peeps chiming in with all of their opinions about computer specs. So make sure you look at it in those comments. All right. Dave A is in the house. All right. He's in the house. Go, Dave. Go, Dave. Hey, Dave, thank you for joining us. Dave is another one of my regulars, always spending time with me every time I have a Saturday live stream. And another one of my regulars, the man, Odette Sharoni, a.k.a. Sharoni Productions, L.A. is in the building, as usual, okay? Odette Sharoni, thank you, my man, for getting down with us. Another Saturday of love, all right? Let's see. Now, we do have one more comment here before we jump into the business at hand. Steve Williams says, hey, Malik, or anyone else here, any idea where I came up with the name Limitless Wave? I remember you told me before, man, but I can't remember. See, that's look at me, man, not paying attention to one of my most dedicated contributors to my Facebook users group. You know, I need to be paying better attention, Steve. I know you said it before, my man, but I cannot remember. All right. But those are the pleasantries. Let's get down to the business at hand. Now, if this is one last thing I want to talk about real quick. One thing. People, I love you for subscribing, liking my videos, watching my videos, but if we could get a little bit of extra love today, 5 super chats. All right. If we get 5 super chats, which help me create content for the channel, I'll go ahead and shout out the channels in a YouTube community post and show you a little bit of love. All right. Now let's jump into the conversation and make it happen. So, for those of you who don't know, your computer specs go a long way towards improving your experience with video editing. Now, whether it's your RAM, your CPU, your GPU, or storage, all of those components together can make or break your editing experience or help lead you down a buttery smooth road to editing bliss, all right? And have your heart all aflutter. Now, I must admit, everyone's bank account is different, all right? Their values are different. Their computers are therefore different. And this causes everyone's experience with Power Director or just editing with anything to be different as well. So that made me wonder. I was like, I wonder, what hardware do my PD peeps value? So I posted it on social media. And if you're not following me on Facebook and YouTube, then you need to do that so you can get down with the things that I do on these polls and stuff like that. So let me go ahead and share the first poll that I want to share with you guys. Let's see here. All right, so on Facebook, I said, when it comes to video editing, what is the most important hardware on your PC? So, graphics card or GPU, 66% of you said that. Second place was RAM or memory, and that's 16%. And then we had a tie for third place, which was CPU and your storage, your SSD or your hard disk drive, which was 9%. All right. Pretty good. Pretty good. You know, I don't think we had such a low. We had 12 votes on there, which, you know, it is what it is. You know, people on Facebook kind of do what they do. But then we also had YouTube. All right, and on YouTube, we got about 197 votes. It might even be more by now. Let me see if we still stuck at 197. I'm just going to refresh this real quick. No, we got 210 votes now. So 210 votes here. 56% graphics card. So regardless of the social media site, graphics card wins out. And then second place here, we kind of flip-flop. We got CPU at 25%. Then we got your memory or RAM at 13% and your storage at 6%. So tell me in the comments, hit me up, let me know if you voted. Which one of these did you pick? Graphics card, memory card, storage, or CPU? I'd like to know so that when we jump into these different hardware pieces on your PC, we can talk a little bit more to you about your specific choices. All right. All right. All right, so now with that being done, let's go ahead and break down the computer requirements that I think you should have for Power Director. So, first on the menu, your central processing unit, otherwise known as your CPU. All right, so this piece of hardware is critically important to your editing experience. So with a CPU, you want to look for something with high frequency and a multi-core processor. So those things help you have a smoother editing experience. So Power Director relies on your clock speed or your frequency and your core count to handle those complex, resource-intense tasks that you want to do, whether it's editing or it's multitasking while you're editing with other programs and things. So if you're thinking about potential like activities that you want to do and how those things are impacted by your CPU, well, scrubbing the timeline, your playback preview, transitions and titles, those things rely mostly on your frequency or your clock speed. So if your clock speed or your frequency is low, it could result in slow response times for your playback and even lag during your editing as well. So we talk about your core count. Your core count is important because of exporting. So when you export your final project or you apply effects, things like that. Those are like additional tasks that need to be done, and they need different pathways to be able to do those different tasks. So Power Director uses these multiple cores to accelerate those tasks. And basically, more cores means faster exports and better multitasking. So if you have multiple programs up while you're editing, then those cores facilitate your ability to be able to do multiple processes while you're editing. Okay. Now, when it comes to your CPU, I recommend that you go big or take your ass home. And you're gonna hear that a lot for this, because for me, if you can't afford to do so, I'm always gonna say step your game up so that you have the best experience. So I recommend, as far as processors goes, an Intel Core i7 or i9. 12th or 13th generation is probably best. Those are the newer ones. And then if you like to go AMD, then a Ryzen 7 or a Ryzen 9 6000 series is probably best for that. And then if you're on a Mac, this is the only time I'm going to bring up Mac, because, Mac, unfortunately, Mac ain't up to speed with Power Director. They're not updating things like they should. So, but for Mac, I would recommend an M3 or M4 processing chip and a Pro. A MacBook Pro or a Max. Now, we got a question on the board. It says, Margaret Walker. What's going on, Margaret? Thank you for being a part of this lovely Saturday live stream. She says, hello from Scotland, Malik. I'm thinking of moving my PC to a MacBook Pro, as I've been told they are better for video editing. What are your thoughts? It depends on the specifications you get on your MacBook Pro. Like, MacBook Pro's got levels. There's levels to this, Margaret. There's levels to this. All right. You just can't say that if I get a MacBook Pro, it's going to be better for editing. That's not true. I could build a PC that's going to be way better than particular MacBook Pros. It depends on what the specs are on your MacBook Pro. If you don't know what to get for editing on a MacBook Pro, first off, go to the Apple Store if you got one. Talk to somebody there. They know their stuff. They can help you with that. Watch some YouTube videos about the best, how to spec your Apple MacBook Pro for video editing, and go from there. Now, once again, I'm going to caveat all of that. I love Power Director, but I'm going to, I don't work for them, so I'm just going to tell you the truth as far as Power Director goes on a Mac. If you're looking to use Power Director on a Mac, I probably wouldn't do that, because they're not updating Power Director on Mac like they should. And I mean, to be truthful with you, from my perspective, they're actually updating the PC version of Power Director a lot, but I know there's some other contributing factors to that. Like, they've made some changes to Windows and things like that. So there's some changes there that come into play that facilitate their need to make more updates, but they're not updating Mac almost at all. So if you're looking to use a Power Director program on your MacBook Pro, I might not go MacBook Pro if you want to use Power Director. Or if you want your MacBook Pro, you might want to go DaVinci Resolve or something for now until, Power Director starts doing some things, updating the Mac. That's just me. That's how I feel about the situation. Okay. Let's see. We got any other comments about CPU on here? Let's see. Steve said, sorry, guys. Most of you are very wrong. The CPU is the king for video editing. You tell them, Steve. Look, people just don't understand the power. Everybody puts it on the GPU, but I don't agree. I mean, CPU, GPU depends on what you're doing. And we're going to kind of talk about that later on, right? Steve says, when it comes to modern gaming, the GPU becomes very, very important. Yeah, because of, the frame FPS on that, what you're doing. Yes, graphical interface for your gaming, very important. But editing, it does play a part depending on what you're doing. Like, if you want to enable like encoding or decoding acceleration, then yes, your GPU is king for that particular process, right? But if you just sitting there editing, like I said before, pretty much CPU could be king. Peter said, "Hey, Margaret, I'm in Wiltshire, moving to Somerset for CyberLink Power Director. Windows PC is always going to be best, and CyberLink haven't made the best for porting updates over to Mac. Like I said, it's not happening, Captain. They ain't even trying. Like, it's been years, and they are like, I don't know. The first excuse they gave me was that, they were trying to learn it, and their developers weren't like up to speed on Mac, but that was years ago. So that's crazy. Like, they should have been caught up on that by now. I don't know what they're doing with that, man, but CyberLink is way behind the 8 ball when it comes to Mac. iJung G, what's going down? He says, Mac is terrible. I would not recommend. Let him know, Big Malik Dizzle. You know the Dizzle. All right. Let's see. So that's CPU. All right. Later on, I'm going to get into my own PC specs. I'm going to share what my CPU is and all of that stuff. But right now, I want to jump into the next category. So the next category that we got here, random access memory, which is lovingly known as RAM. RAM. Okay, let me stop. Look, innuendos, go away. Okay, so RAM, or random access memory, allows Power Director to store things. So it allows it to store video clips, audio, effects, transitions. So when you're editing, it can quickly get back to those things and not mess up your flow and have to go out there and pull them again. So RAM is important because anytime you're doing things within your edit, that's the amount of RAM is where the computer program is storing the things that you're doing. So when you're making changes, edits, you're doing clips, you're doing titles, it has it in your RAM so it can go back and forth to continue to do things without having to go back and, access them from start, right? It just makes it easier to access things. So if you're using shadow files, if you're doing render previews on your timeline, your effects cache, things like that, those are all associated with RAM. So how that helps is the more RAM you have, the more previews, the more effects you can store and play back easier. So RAM is essential if you have a complex timeline. All right. So for what I said, like if it's going to access all of these things, you need to have a lot of RAM if you have a complex timeline. If you create videos with lots of video clips, overlays, effects, you need a lot of RAM. All right. There's no other way around it. You got to have enough RAM to facilitate the editing process as you are going through, especially if you're doing big projects. If you're short on RAM when you're editing something, then you're going to experience like lag, freezing, and the worst thing. This is the thing that a lot of people end up having happen to them, and they always question why: crashes. A lack of RAM is going to lead to crashing more than most other pieces of hardware, right? If you have like 8 gigabytes of RAM and you trying to get your edit on, good luck. All right. I would say that 16 gigabytes is the minimum that you should have on your machine. To me, editing with like anything less than 16 gigabytes of RAM is it's just setting you up for failure. I'm just telling you. 16 gigabytes is good for like HD, like 1080p editing. And you might even be able to do some light 4K edits with 16 gigs. Okay. Not might, you could, you can do some light 4K work with 16 gigs, but I recommend 32 gigabytes or more. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you're going to be editing, to me, you got to have at least 32 gigabytes of RAM because it's going to make sure that your editing experience is better. Less lagging, less bugginess, less crashing. You're going to be good. With 32 gigs, you'll be able to do 4K work. You'll be able to handle complex timelines. Your playback will be smooth. Everything will be A-O-freaking-K. Okay. Now, what isn't A-O freaking K is the likes I got on this video, man. I only see I see a few likes on here. I don't see enough likes. I need likes. I need you clicking that thumb. So if you're enjoying this video, if you think you're learning a little bit of something, hit me up with a like. Okay. And what's more, maybe even hit me up with a super chat or a super sticker. Those would be lovely as well. All right. And of course, if you're not subscribed, make sure that you subscribe to Power Director University. And this way you can go ahead and check me out whenever I upload content, whenever I do live streams, whenever I do tutorials, whatever the heck I'm doing, you'll be able to know, you'll be in the know, and you'll be able to get that bell notification to let you know when I'm out here. Also, follow me on social media. All right. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm all over the freaking place. All right. We got a question here. Who is this? This is my good friend, Peter J. Milner. He said, there is also physical RAM and virtual RAM and cache RAM. Yes, there is. Most people don't know that. And I have a little program, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. It's called Speccy. There are a lot of programs out there that you can look at the specs on your PC, but Speccy breaks down virtual RAM, physical RAM, stuff like that. Both virtual and cache RAM are actually stored on your hard drives, as they are much, much slower. The more physical RAM you have, the better. Yes, sir. And that's what I'm referring to when I'm talking about RAM. Your physical RAM. How much physical RAM do you have? How many sticks, basically? How many memory sticks, gigabyte memory sticks, do you have on your PC, right? 32 gigabytes is what I recommend. Thank you, Mr. Milner, for the love of money. I don't know why I said that, but I like singing. Howdy Ride says, glad I tuned in today. I only have 16 gigs of RAM. If PD 365 crashes often, I add enough RAM to get it to 64 gigs. Okay? 64 gigs. Now, let's talk about that. I got 64 gigs, and you'll see when I share my PC specs, I also have 64 gigs, and I don't experience crashes with Power Director. Okay. Now, I will say that there could be crashes with Power Director if there's issues with the program too. That doesn't mean that RAM is the only reason why you're going to crash. That's not true. It is, in my opinion, the most likely reason for your PC to crash when editing on Power Director, but it is not the only reason. So I do want to make that caveat. Now, 64 gigabytes got me going smooth. So if you decide to go ahead and rock with 64 gigabytes or more, do that if you can afford it, right? RAM ain't cheap. I'll tell you right now, RAM ain't cheap, boy. But this is why having a desktop tower is important, because you have the flexibility to do things like that. You can add more RAM. You can change out your graphics card. Like another thing with like a Mac, you buy it and you're done. So you might as well go all out, because with a Mac, if you get in there and try to do anything, you void in like all your warranties and everything. And I think that it's even more difficult for you to get into the Mac and even change out things like that. I don't even know if as a consumer, you should even be doing that. But when you build your own computer, or you buy a tower that has additional express slots and NVMe slots for your SSD, stuff like that, then you have future proofing built into your machine, and you can do more things. So it is what it is. Demon of Oblivion, what's going on? Thank you for joining us again, Demon of Oblivion. Says, I feel like the problem is that even when you have good specs, Cyberlink hasn't bothered to test their program, and instead the users become the beta testers. This is a problem with other video editors. I think that's true. I think that they do test. That's the first thing I'll say. I know, because I've actually been a beta tester before for Cyberlink. They allowed me to beta test the program back in the day before it went to 365 version. I was beta testing almost every version that came out, and I was able to share with them things that I saw that were wrong, or things that I thought that they should update and fix. So they do test. Now that they have the subscription version, I don't know what the extent of their beta testing is. Maybe they just leave me off, and maybe they're still doing it. Maybe they're doing it in-house. Maybe they have a user acceptance testing group somewhere that's using it. I don't know. But I do know that, to your point, Demon, they release versions of it that have bugs in it. And a lot of the times we have to let them know about these bugs, and then they fix them. So that is true. I will say that. What I can't say is whether or not they have beta testing, because I would think any developer worth its salt would have some type of testing environment before they put something out. But to that same end, there's a lot of stuff that we find out for them after they release it to the public. So Steve says 16 gigabytes is fine for light editing. 32 gigabyte RAM is optimal. 64 is overkill. Hey, I will tell you like this. 64 makes me feel good. Overkill, I love it. I love overkill. All right. And like you said, I said the same thing. 64 gigabytes, good for light editing. 32 is great for HD and 4K. 64, I love it. It makes me feel good. Okay. Dave A said, as a gamer, I tend to build my rigs with an overkill mindset. Serves me well. Me too. I overkill. Now, Peter J. Milner is the real overkill king. Okay. Y'all ask him. My boy is going crazy. Look, here you go. Here he go. Look, speak of the devil. My head moderator in charge. That is fine for purely PD, but if you're using the full director suite and swap between them, even 64 gigs isn't really enough. See? Like I said, I want Peter to share your specs, Peter. Get on here and share your specs in the comments, man. Let everybody know. I'm going to share mine later, but share yours because, like I said, Peter J. Milner is the king of overkill, okay? And I don't mind it at all. I need some of his money so I can make some big changes on my computer, okay? But with all of that being said, RAM's important. Okay, I think that's what we're saying here. But next, we're talking graphics cards, baby. This is the one that got the number one amount of votes. I think it's useful. I think it's good. Like was said by Steve, I agree. CPU over GPU in my experience. But there's a lot of value in your GPU because based on what you are doing for editing, it's important as well. Now, your graphics card or your GPU, your graphical user interface, whatever you want to call it, it plays a critical role in video editing because it accelerates visual tasks that could slow down and cause choppy playback. So your GPU helps when you're decoding video files. So when you're bringing those files in, different types of files, it's decoding them and helping them get smoother playback on your timeline. So as you know, PowerDirector can use many different types of video codecs and it can bring them in, but the GPU helps decode them. And the GPU also helps you out because it can offload some task when you're editing, okay? So what I mean by offload some tasks, it can take some of the task and the heavy lifting from your CPU so that your CPU has more flexibility to do other things, right? So that depends on what you're doing. Now, you can enable your GPU to use acceleration. So hardware acceleration, you guys have seen it before. It helps to speed up encoding when you're rendering or exporting. So if you're going to export something, you're going to do a render preview, you have your GPU acceleration that you can use to help speed that up, to speed up the encoding and create that preview. Now, your GPU, it also allows PowerDirector to better manage certain effects. So stabilization, noise reduction, like visual things. Like I said before, it helps with the visual aspect, your blurs, stuff like that. So if you're doing complex visual effects, your GPU can help with those things. Now, as far as your GPU goes, I recommend you go with the NVIDIA RTX 3050, 3060, or 4060. Those are great graphic cards with a lot of power. If you're an AMD person, once again, then a Radeon 6700M Plus is a good graphics card to go with. So let's see what you guys are talking about. See if y'all got any comments about these graphic card thingies. Peter says main edit suite, Intel NUC 12 Extreme. Okay, he shared his specs with y'all. So he's got, for his main editing suite, he has an Intel NUC 12 Extreme i9, 12th gen Intel i9 CPU, NVIDIA 3090 24 gigabyte GPU, 2 terabyte NVMe OS and software, an 8 terabyte NVMe data and footage, a Loopdeck CT and Loopdeck Live, a Samsung 49-inch preview monitor OLED TV. So I'll tell you right now, their graphics card is hella powerful, so you ain't got no worries on that. The 8 terabyte NVMe, great for storage right there on the computer, right off of his motherboard for 8 terabytes on that. The 2 terabytes that he shares, OS and software, it's all good. I mean, he's even got like, I think the 8 terabyte probably is the one that you're editing off of as well, and storing things on. So that's a great setup, man. Like I said, he got me beat. Got me beat. I have some things that are kind of close, but he still got me beat. All right. Jun G says, this is what I rock, Malik. Thoughts? GMK Tech K7 Plus Mini PC. It's got an Intel i7 13620 hertz, 10 cores, up to 4.9 gigahertz, 32 gigabyte RAM, 1 terabyte SSD, dual LAN, USB-C, 8K AFD. Okay, so I love what you got, Jun G. I love it, man. You got a 10-core processor. You got 4.9 gigahertz, great clock speed. You got my clock speed beat by mine. I need to upgrade my clock speed on my processor, my man. You got 32 gigabytes of RAM, which is great. The 1 terabyte SSD. I probably would step up on that if that's your only storage on your machine, simply because of practicality with space, editing. It depends on your workflow. Like if you're just deleting files and things like that, that's fine. 1 terabyte is pretty good for like, to me, your OS and your software. And you'll see later on when I share my specs, I have 2 NVMe SSDs on my machine. I got one that's a 1 terabyte for my OS and my software. And then I have a 2 terabyte that I use for editing and files and things like that. Then besides that, I have another drive. I have a 11 terabyte QNAP hard disk external drive that I archive footage onto that. So I think your setup is good, man. I just think you probably want to look at your solid state drive, maybe getting a bigger one, or maybe even getting an additional one if your motherboard can support it, or if you have, because some SSDs are connected versus SATA. So I don't know if yours is NVMe or if it's SATA. If it's NVMe and you got another NVMe slot on your machine, then I would say put a bigger terabyte SSD in that other NVMe slot. Or PCs usually got a bunch of SATA slots, so you can even get an SSD, hook it up to that SATA slot, just make it a bigger one. IGG said, my PC died. I had to buy something quick. I got it from Amazon for $500. It's a little powerhouse for its price and shizzle. Yeah, for sure. That is a little powerhouse for 500 simoleons. You doing something good with that. All right. So that was our GPU discussion. We're going to dive into what I was just talking about with my man 50 grand, IGG. SSD, your solid state drive. All right. This is the last spec that I'm going to talk about before I share my PC specs with all of you guys. So SSD or solid state drives offer fast read and write speeds and impact like a lot of your editing workflow, because this is where your files are and this is where the program is accessing them from. So the faster and the more reliable, the better off you're going to be. The SSD allows you to quickly access those files. So you can open up your projects faster. So if you have your software on an SSD, it helps with your load time. and it could bring your assets into your program faster than it would if you were using a hard disk drive or a HDD. So an SSD actually helps you load your media cache faster. So things like your thumbnails, your audio waveform, those things that are cached will be generated quicker off of your SSD. Now, when you scrub the timeline, an SSD allows you to access data quicker, so that reduces your lag and your stutter. So if you're like trying to scrub your timeline and you notice it jumping around and it's slow to start, and even if you're on an SSD, maybe you need more space, or maybe if you're on a hard disk drive, you should upgrade that to an SSD. When you import your files from an SSD, PowerDirector is able to conform them to whatever frame rate or resolution you select even faster, because the SSD allows for quicker read and write speed, so it does everything faster. As far as your SSD, I recommend, and this is kind of like what I was talking to you about, iGenG, like a 1 terabyte NVMe, so that's directly connected to the motherboard for your primary storage or your video editing, or maybe like a 2 terabyte, 1 or 2 terabyte for that. I also recommend getting an external drive for archiving projects and footage, because if you get an external drive, and it doesn't matter to me as far as your external drive, because I don't edit on that drive. That drive is just for storage and archiving things. So I can go cheaper and get like a QNAP or different branded like NAS or DAS storage device, where I can get a lot of hard disk drives in there, and I can archive a lot of footage. I used to have one called a Drobo. Drobo went out of business, and the Drobo I had 80 terabytes of hard disk, and I would just archive everything on there and save it. Then if I wanted to edit, I could just pull that file off of the Drobo, or that project and those files off of the Drobo, and put it on my SSD to edit it again, because the SSD is faster. So that's my take on that. That's what I recommend. All right. Let's see. We got any comments, questions talking about the drives? Always use M2 SSDs if possible. Massively faster than SATA. Yes, sir. So M2 or NVMe, right? SSDs massively faster than SATA SSDs, just because of the connection. Well, I would say my understanding of it, like I said, I'm not the computer guru, but my understanding is those M2 SSDs that Steve was relating to are connected directly to the motherboard, right? And they're near the CPU, like as far as like wiring and stuff. So it's so much faster. Whereas SATA is kind of off the motherboard through a SATA connection, and the SATA connection is not as close to the other hardware on the motherboard to make it faster. Now, for us, difference is probably seconds or whatever, but it's still a lot faster and a lot more reliable. Steve said, avoid mechanical hard disks at all costs except for archiving. Exactly. Same thing. I agree. That's what I said. I archive things on a hard disk drive because that's just better. It's cheaper, and I'm not using it to edit. Just using it to hold stuff, and that's it. So I agree with that 110%, my friend. All right. So now, I know we're done with all of that. Let me see. I still got time. My wife got me on a schedule today, people. So now I'm doing all that, I am going to share my PC specs with you. I'm going to go ahead and bring up a few things here real quick. See what we got in the bag. Let me do this first before I do that. Get rid of this banner. Bye-bye banner. All right. I'm going to share my specs. Sharing my specs, baby. We're going to start off here. All right. So these are my system specs, and anyone with a Windows computer can get here. If you go to, there should be an icon on your machine. It'll say this PC or my computer, depending on what version of Windows you're using. If you right click on that and then you click on properties, it'll pull up this screen that I'm showing right here. So this shows how much storage I have directly attached to the PC, right? So storage, I got 2.79 terabytes. So I'm going to break that down with another program a little bit later. It says 436 gigabytes of the 2.79 terabytes are being used right now. My graphics card is 8 gigabytes. So this is the one that Peter J. Milner got me beat with 16 extra gigabytes on his graphics card, on his GPU. So he's got me beat hands down on that one. And like I said, like I got a GTX 1080. Like I need to up my game on my graphics card. But I will say this, it's working great. Hasn't given me any problems. I want to upgrade it, but I'm, cost, value. I'm not having any problems with my GPU right now, my graphics card. So I'm good with it. Now, if you're in the market for a GPU, then like I said, if you're going to go NVIDIA like mine, RTX 3050 is probably what I would go with. And that's way better than the one that I have. But at the same time, brother trying to, watch what he spend on when he spend. Okay, it is what it is. All right. RAM. I got 64 gigabytes of RAM. I know Steve said it's overkill, but I love it. I'm killing all kind of caches. All right. And then my processor is an Intel Core i9-7900X CPU. Now, my clock speed is only 3.3 gigahertz. Once again, this is something that, for me, it's been working wonders. It's been great for me. I don't have any issues with it. But if I were in the market today and I was purchasing something, I would probably go like 4.9 gigahertz or higher. I mean, they got 7 gigahertz and 9 gigahertz processors now. So it's crazy what these things can do. But if I was in the market today, like I said, i7 or i9, I would probably go with something with 4.9 or 5 gigahertz. All right. So that's the first way. Like I said, you can see your PC by going to this PC. There's an icon on your desktop or my computer. Right click that, click on properties, and it'll pull up a screen like this. All right. So I also have a program on my machine that's called Speccy, and it gives some additional info. And I'd like to share that with you now. So let's go ahead and pull that up. Here is Speccy in all of its glory. So Speccy gives you a pretty good breakdown of your machine. So you can see it has the summary, which we're on right now. This is the summary screen. Your operating system, CPU, RAM, motherboard's got all these categories on the left-hand side over here. And then under the summary, since that's the tab we're on right now, kind of gives you a breakdown. I got Windows 11 Pro 64-bit. My CPU, we talked about that. Then my RAM, 64 gigs, we talked about that. My motherboard, I have the information on my motherboard. My graphics card, it's got the information on that we talked about. And then it kind of breaks down my storage. So when we're talking about my storage on here, this 1907 gigabytes, that's 1.9 gigabyte SSD. That's on there. Okay, it's a M2 SSD card. That's the one I use when I'm editing stuff. So that's the 2 terabyte one. Then underneath that one, you'll see I have 953 gigs, which is almost 1 terabyte, 0.95, whatever. And that's also an M2 SSD. That's the one that I have my system, my programs. I got all of that stuff on there. And then underneath that, you see the QNAP TR004. So that is a direct attached storage, I'm sorry. And that one is 11 terabytes of hard disk drive that I use to archive files. Like whenever I'm done editing videos, tutorials, whatever, I take those off and I save the project, the files, everything on that drive. Okay. And then underneath that one, I have a 4 terabyte or 3.7 terabyte external hard disk drive. I use that for backups. So that's the one that I back up my machine to. Like every time that I have it automatically set up to do backups, that's where it's going. Okay. So this program, like I said, it's called Speccy. Gives me a pretty good breakdown. And if I were to like do a bit of a deeper dive, let's say I went to CPU, this gives me a bigger breakdown. It tells me how many cores I have, how many threads. So having 10 cores means that I have faster export times. I could do multitasking when I'm editing. Then once again, it gives me the breakdown of my clock speed or my core speeds, 3,300 megahertz or 3.3 gigahertz. So, you know, that's good for most demanding tasks. And, you know, like I said, I might invest in like a 5 gigahertz i9 processor in the future. We'll have to see about that one. Okay. And then there's also, like you said, you can click on any one of these RAM. Here's where you get your breakdown of your physical RAM. So I got 64 gigs of physical RAM. So like I said, when I was talking earlier, if Steve brought up, you got virtual RAM, you got physical RAM. So basically it gives you a breakdown. You got your virtual RAM here. You got your physical RAM. So these are the types of RAM that it gives you access to or information on Speccy. Then you got your graphics card. You got additional information on here, what your current display monitor is. Mine is a 5120 by 1440. Gives you other information from the manufacturer. Then, of course, you got your storage information again. So this breaks it down, manufacturer, partition information, all kind of stuff. So if you really want to do a deep dive and understand like all this stuff on your machine, Speccy, it's free. It's a good thing to get. There's a paid version as well. But hey, you can jump into this, see all your compute stuff, and find out more information and confirm things on your machine. So it is what it is. But like I said, you also have the free, just go into Windows and right click in this PC, go into properties and look in there too. So you got all kind of options to see what's on your machine. All right. See what's happening in the comments right about now. Steve says Speccy always seems to report the wrong VRAM on the GPU. I don't know. Wasn't aware of that, my friend, but thank you for letting me know. I might have to check into that. All right. Peter says, Groovy Granny, you're preaching to the converted here. I have 8 screens on my main edit suite. Yeah, y'all ain't even seen the picture. Go to Facebook, go to the Power Director users group and check out the photos. Look up Peter J. Milner. Look at the photos he shares of his editing suite. It's a thing of beauty. It'll make you gush. It'll make you gush. Dave says, I like the look of Speccy. Yeah, I do too. I like the look of it. The interface is pretty easy. You got your information on the left. It's clear to read. Gives you a lot of information. I like it. Peter says, I use HW64, which is pretty similar, but very detailed. Yeah, I need to look that one up. So appreciate you sharing that. Let's see what it's all about. Because I mean, I'm very satisfied with Speccy, but I'll take a look at it. I'm always open to looking at new things, my man. You know that. Pollyanna said, I am just quietly listening, learning lots. Thank you, Pollyanna. You know what? I was talking to some other people Wednesday, and I have a podcast class that I do. And this is just, I do it with some friends of mine who want to do a podcast. So I have had podcasts in the past, and I'm pretty much have a lot of good information about doing podcasts that I share. And I had a conversation with them on Wednesday about computer specs. And I was talking, and I felt like I was kind of talking past them because I don't think that they're I don't know how computer savvy they are, but I don't think they care a lot about the specs on a computer. I think a lot of people just want a computer that to work, and they don't care about all the specs and updating it and stuff like that. But I try to convey why the hardware is important and what the hardware is going to do for you, which is what I try to do today. Like, not only tell you, hey, you should get this and you should get that. Well, why should I get, a SSD? Because it's faster than an HDD, and you can access your files quicker. You can upload your programs quicker, and it's more reliable. Like, just kind of giving people the why behind the requirements. Because a lot of the times when you look on, like, if you look up computer requirements for PowerDirector 365, it'll have a list of them, and it'll tell you the minimums and probably what it recommends. And it'll tell you sometimes, like, hey, for 4K or for HD or whatever, but it doesn't tell you everything as to why. And that leaves a lot of people feeling misinformed, or not misinformed, uninformed about the decision that they should make. So I try to convey, just like I did in my podcast lesson on Wednesday, why a certain platform or service or computer specs is important when it comes to podcasting, video editing, whatever the case may be, and give them the information that they can walk away with and make a informed decision. But sometimes, Pollyanna, some people don't care about all the specs and all that stuff. And I understand it. I get it. It's not like, it's not everybody's cup of tea. Some people just want to say, hey, what computer should I get? But that's hard to say. I don't know what your pocketbook looks like, your bank account looks like, and what's important to you. So I understand, Pollyanna. I get it. And I saw it a little bit in my podcast lesson the other week. Groovy Green said, what's it like to work with PD on a curved screen? I like it. It's beautiful. The curved screen just gives you, like, it's not a big deal to some people. To some people it is. It's more about the experience for the user being more immersed in the activity that they're doing, because the curved screen gives you that bit of, I guess, feeling like it's not surrounding you, but it's coming towards you and gives you more of that immersive look. My monitor is what is it? I don't know if it's 49 or larger, just like Peter's. I think it's a 49 if I remember correctly. I have to pull back up Specky to kind of look at that, but I'm pretty sure it's a 49 inch, and it's very wide, and it gives me a lot of real estate to do the things that I want to do. So that's the most important thing. IGNG says, gotta go, Malik. We'll drop by another time. I tried to drop you a dime sack, but Super Chat doesn't accept PayPal. Those bastards. Hey, I appreciate the try, man. No problem. Have a good time, IGNG. Have a good weekend, man. All right. Howie Rod says, you did a great job explaining the why. We need to have certain PC hardware to do editing in PD. Well, I'm glad that I was able to go ahead and explain that to you, Howie Rides. I mean, that's my intent today. I don't want to leave you all like not knowing from my recommendations of what I think are the important things to make sure you get. Peter says, one thing not yet covered is it is all very well having a top spec computer, but if you edit in a very hot room, the computer will slow down dramatically. It's called thermal throttling. Yeah, I mean, I will say this, and most people who work in an office already know this, your office is always cold as hell. Why is your office always cold as hell? Because they want your computers to be able to run efficiently. And heat stops that, because the computer's internal heat is like, can get really hot. I think that's something that's important to Peter's point is your room needs to be cooled, but your PC can also be cooled. Like, there's a lot of different cooling systems that you can use on your PC. I have a liquid cooling system on my tower. So basically what it does, it has a fan attached to a liquid cooling unit, and that liquid is cold, and it pushes through and makes the air even colder than just a fan by itself. A lot of PCs just have a fan, and depending on the temperature in the room, you could be pushing hot air to your internals. But if you have a liquid cooling system, it helps to make sure that that air that is being pushed through is cool, and basically you have kind of like a little AC unit inside your machine. Peter says that's why most Pro Edit suites are air conditioned. Yep, exactly. All right. Groovy Granny says, hey, Malik, gotta go. Already running late. We'll catch up. See you. Bye, Groovy Granny. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate the love. Haunted Scouts TV says, I bought a new Windows PC with plenty of spec, but still had to add RAM. Working well, but still issues. Maybe too many features slowing the program down. I wouldn't say that. I mean, if you hitting the specs or better than the specs that I'm talking about on here, they should be fine. Depends on what you're doing and what's happening, things like that, to really kind of start to boil down to it. Your files that you're using, it's a lot of like variables that could go into why your experience is the way it is. If you go through all the things on this checklist and you get all the recommendations that I'm talking about, you could pretty much say, for the most part, you're good from a hardware perspective. Then you got to start looking at other things, your files, the codecs that you're using. There's all types of other variables, how many effects you're using, there's just a bunch of things. I can't even like talk through all of them right now, but there are so many variables that we really need to know what you're doing, what you're trying to do, and what are all of the variables that could be contributing to the thing that you're experiencing. David said, yes, AC important. I keep the room so cold, I have to brush the ice off my beard. Hey, have fun with that, brother. Haunted Scouts TV said, love the Facebook help page, by the way. Got some great advice in there about a crashing issue. Good. I'm glad that it helped you out. And if you guys aren't on the Facebook train, get involved. All right. We got Power Director University. That's my page on Facebook. Follow me there. And then there's the Power Director Users Group on Facebook. Join it. All right. A lot of great people on there doing a lot of great things. Great community of people sharing information and enjoying one another. So please, please, please feel free to get on there. But it looks like I have hit my time for the day. My wife got lumpia to go get her something. I don't know. She getting lumpia, pancit, something. So I got to get the heck out of here. I got to help my wife pick up this food, man, that she enjoys. Make sure, happy wife, happy life. Got to keep it right, or we gonna live trife. Okay. So anyway, all right, we did get a super chat. One super chat from my man Dave. Great follower of the channel. Follower on Facebook. Thank you so much, Dave. Appreciate you, my man. $10 super chat really is going to help out the channel. We appreciate you so much, my man. I don't know. I will ask Steve, what's with the lack of likes? I don't understand that either, my man. But if you like this video, please hit that thumb. All right. There's a lot of you guys watching. If you didn't like it, give me a comment on what the hell I should do next time. All right. But before I get out of here, I want to thank everybody for joining me today. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in, being a part of my live streams. It means so much that you guys follow me and interact with me on a regular basis. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Peter, Steve, my moderators, thank you guys for lending your knowledge and tutelage and expertise to these live streams and to the social media. I will see you guys later. Peace.